About the airport? I'll go drop
Yeah,
it in there.
it's called New View.
Okay.
I've got the paper here, so if you don't, if in the middle of the broadcast you stick it in there, that's great.
I
If
should
not,
be able to do that.
I've got the article right here.
We're
So
live on YouTube, live on Cypress Street, and should be about 1 minute away from live
okay,
on the channel.
uh, okay, I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, I'm here.
All right. It is 9 o'clock. It is 9 o'clock exactly. So we're going to kick things off here. This is Local News Live. We do this each weekday at 9 o'clock. We read articles from the Acadiana Advocate, local and state news, even some fun stuff like this day in history, the Zodiac, and important items that people may want to know, like the obituaries and funeral services that are happening today. This is a service to the community led by volunteers. One of our utmost and most longest running volunteers here on this program, Bruce Cohen from his home studio this morning, joining us to read this morning. Thank you so much, Bruce, for being here.
Well, you're entirely welcome, Mandy. Thank you always for both you and Matt, but you in the last couple of weeks for being my tech person.
Absolutely, I try.
Yeah, well, you try. You do pretty good. I couldn't do it without you, so I really appreciate that.
Thanks, Bruce. Same to you.
Okay, so well, good morning, Acadiana. It is Friday, August 21st, 2020, and we will start off with obviously a coronavirus news. Isn't that a surprise? Lafayette teachers push back on full in-person classes. Group calls for more transparency from school system by Katie Gagliano, staff writer. Lafayette Parish Association of Educators on Thursday voiced its members' opposition to changes in the Lafayette Parish back-to-school plan, pushing back against a recent announcement that elementary students will return to in-person classes full times, Monday through Friday. Lafayette Parish School System announced the decision to send pre-K through fifth grade students back to in-person classes 5 days a week on Tuesday. First through fifth grade students will begin classes September 8th on a hybrid schedule to become familiar with the safety procedures before shifting to full in-person attendance September 14th. Pre-K and kindergarten students will begin full-time on September 21st. The decision was a reversal from the school system's plan released in July, which was to use a hybrid learning model with students split into A and B groups, spending 2 to 3 days in face-to-face classes with the rest of the time spent learning at home virtually. Despite the changes to elementary attendance, middle and high school students will remain on the hybrid schedule for the foreseeable future. LPAE President Julia Reed said the Tuesday change was a shock to administrators and teachers represented by the organization, who felt the shift was dropped on them without input. LPAE represents roughly 1,000 educators in Lafayette Parish schools, but educators and about 1/4 of the district's workforce. The professional association and the school system have had a positive working relationship, but educators still have a limited voice in the process, and they felt the Tuesday announcement was premature, she said. We want, and as educators, to row out our boat in the same direction in the school system, but we cannot do so unless we know where we are going, Reed said. They are not our enemy. We want to work together with them. They're trying to fix things, and we want to work with them, but we can't do that if we aren't in the loop, she said. Recent data suggests new COVID-19 case numbers in Acadiana are declining after a July 13th peak, when nearly 600 cases were reported in one day for the Louisiana Department of Health's 7 Parish Region 4, but daily case numbers remain higher And then before the recent summer COVID-13 spike began in June. The positivity rate of the number of positive cases compared to tests were also down in Lafayette Parish, declining from 10.7% between July 30th and August 5th to 8% between August 6th and August 12th, according to the Louisiana Department of Health COVID-19 dashboard. Even with progress, the parish and region still remain hotspots, reporting more than 100 cases per 100,000 people over 2 weeks, Reed said. There's also the concern that positive progress could be hindered by the recent reopening of the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. Students return to area private schools in the upcoming Labor Day holiday, which falls one day before public schools slated to return. Reed said the district has stated repeatedly it consults with the Louisiana Department of Health, and other health professionals in its decision making. But the district's method for analyzing the data and making decisions hasn't been made clear. None of that information, none of what's discussed in those meetings, have been disclosed to the public educators. Reed said. Jennifer Gardner, the school system chief administrative officer, said the school system considered multiple relevant data points from healthcare officials after the district delayed its return to September 8th, but it's declined to elaborate on the decision-making philosophy. Dr. Tina Stefanski, Louisiana Office of Public Health Region 4, which includes the Lafayette Parish, medical director, said there are not set thresholds that area COVID-19 cases or area hospital capacity must reach before schools can reopen. She and other health officials are providing the school system with an assessment of the big picture using data and the final decision in their call, she said. At the very least, the teachers' organization and news conference, it wants all students in the parish to return to a school on a hybrid schedule to reduce class sizes and a risk of spreading the novel coronavirus. The association has pushed for a vital start in the past. Lafayette Superintendent Irma Trosclair said the change in full-time to in-person classes was made possible by declining COVID-19 case numbers and expanded reduced class sizes spurred by robust Lafayette online community enrollment, Gardner said. 100 students were enrolled in the Lafayette Academy as of Tuesday, including roughly 30% of the district's elementary students. That number could shift. On Wednesday, the school system reopened Lafayette Online Academy registration to kindergarten through fifth grade students to allow parents to adjust their plans after the district's reopening changes. This was our original plan, Trosclair said Tuesday. Our priority was to get the young students in front of the state's phase 2 reopening guidelines. Schools are limited to 25 people in a classroom, including adults. Trosclair said K-2 classrooms have an average student-teacher ratio of 20.1. School officials were confident class sizes would be well below those numbers, with students' exodus to the online academy putting the classes firmly within the health officials' guideline, Trosclair said. In fifth grade, the average student-to-teacher ratio is elected to enroll in the online academy, she said. Reed said the Teachers Association is concerned that even when Reed says she set up her English classroom at Paulboro Middle School and cannot fit 17 students in her room at the required distance. The LPAE also issued several demands Thursday, including the system release within 2 days the transportation and sanitation plan that will safely get all pre-K to fifth grade students to and from school safely, a call-in line at school board meetings for public comment. At-risk members of the public can speak. Each time educators are required to quarantine, they are not docked any sick days or lose out on pay. If grades pre-K through fifth grades return to face-to-face instruction at 5 days a week, limit the case size of 12 students. Reed said the association's membership voted unanimously in favor of the demands at a Zoom meeting on Tuesday. About 40 members were present at the virtual meeting. Each school has a voting member who represents their school members on official business. The president said the parish association has not discussed what action members will take if the demands are ignored. She said a strike or a member refusal to report to school has been floated, but the association has not voted on set actions at this time. We hope to avoid that. The ultimate goal is students learning and teachers not reporting to school is not students learning. We hope to avoid that if at all possible, she said. Okay, moving on. St. Martin Parish loses a Lake Martin appeal by Megan Wyatt staff writer. Louisiana Appeals Court issued an option Wednesday in favor of a business operating in Lake Martin. Excuse me, I'm having trouble this morning with my throat here. That sparked controversy and contributed to public access problems at the state-owned body of water. The 5-judge panel of the Louisiana Third Circuit Court of Appeal in Lake Charles agreed with the district court's ruling that a swamp-torn business could continue operating on the shore of Lake Martin, even though zoning ordinance prohibits it. In a ruling issued Wednesday, Judges Candace G. Perrette, Ulysses Jean Thibodeau, and Elizabeth A. Pickett wrote that Brian Champagne obtained the necessary permits and approval from St. Martin Parish authorities before building and expanding his boat tour business on the lakeside of the levee surrounding Lake Martin. Their ruling affirmed the lower court's decision to deny St. Martin Parish's injunction lawsuit. Under the facts of the case, appellates released in good faith to their determined on the permits issued by the parish and have incurred expense as a result, Barrett wrote. Thus, let me check this out. Appellees have acquired a vested right. We did no manifest error in the trial court's judgment dismissing St. Martin Parish government's petition for injunction. In a dissenting opinion also published as part of Wednesday's 59-page ruling, Judges John E. Connery and Van H. Kazar let out their support for the injunction lawsuit, calling out the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries for not intervening to preserve the body of water the office is tasked with maintaining. How is this allowed to happen? Connery wrote. The record is silent as to why the LDWF has not acted independently and or intervened to stop Mr. Champagne's commercialization of this ecologically significant state-owned and or managed preserve. The record is also silent as to how Mr. Champagne was able to construct a building with public restrooms, wharfs, docks, decks, and boat slips on Lake Martin without appropriate permits from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. From pictures and evidence in Mr. Champagne's public website, Mr. Champagne also appears to have a fuel tank on site from which he can provide fuel to his tour boats. The record likewise does not show where or how effluent and wastewater from his public restrooms are handled. The two opposing opinions demonstrate the complicated picture of what has unfolded at Lake Martin in recent years. Things have only gotten murkier in the past year, with the lower court's ruling in favor of the business created uncertainty about public access to the state lake via the private properties that surround it. And an April 2019 decision, Sitting District Court Judge Keith Como ruled in favor of Champagne's business remaining on the shore of the lake, saying the man's rights would be violated if the operation was shut down, and called the zoning ordinance in question poor at best. The St. Martin Parish Council unanimously agreed in May 2019 to appeal the ruling, saying local government had an obligation under the Louisiana Constitution to protect the wildlife preserve and public access to the lake. A 3-judge panel of the State Appeals Court heard arguments on January 7th on the district judge's ruling. About 5 months later, the case went before a 5-judge panel of the Appeals Court. The basic situation behind the lawsuit, The property surrounding Lake Martin is zoned only for portable business operations. Champaign, who also operated a portable swarm tour business at one point, obtained the necessary permits and established a permanent structure on the lake that has grown over the years. During the January hearing, St. Martin Parish Attorney Alan Duran argued that permits erroneously issued to Champaign for commercial operations at Lake Martin should be revoked. He says Champaign had the right to monetary compensation for losses caused by the error, but the parish had an obligation to protect the sanctity of the lake. Michael Adley, who argued on behalf of Champaign's businesses, said this wasn't a one-time permitting mistake. Multiple permits over multiple years were approved by multiple governing authorities. There doesn't seem to be a problem until activists known as the Friends of Lake Martin pushed the parish government to take action against the business owner. Things have gotten even messier at Lake Martin in the years since the lower court's ruling. Parish and state leaders have argued that they cannot keep up with or make improvements to the land surrounding the lake because taxpayer dollars cannot be spent on private land. Meanwhile, private landowners closed the public boat launch on their property at the end of February for fear of lawsuits that could result from those who access the lake using the ramp. That action hasn't just restricted public access to the lake for recreational purposes, it's also effectively ended all boat tour operations aside from those happening in Champaign's business, and has restricted the state access to the lake for water testing and upkeep. Since the February closure, the landowners have said they plan to fix the local launch and reopen it as a business operation, charging users $8 to $10 to access the lake. Parish President Chester Cedars, who had been trying to negotiate with the landowners, has since discussed the possibility of constructing a new boat launch on another private property on the shore of the lake. The appeals court decision can go before the Louisiana Supreme Court, although the state's highest court can choose not to hear the case. Okay, we'll go to a couple of public service announcements before we move on with our news stories this morning. The annual Total Life Blood Drive. Joy Vitalant for the annual Total Blood Drive as event. And they were touring this week. The last day is tomorrow, the 22nd. The coronavirus pandemic has brought to light the vital importance of ongoing blood donations. All blood types are important and all needed for parent care in our area hospitals that we serve. Donate August 17th through 22nd. So 22nd being tomorrow. The Vitalant Donation Center is located at 1503 Bertrand Drive in Lafayette. Or at one of the many locations around Acadiana, which can be found at vitalant.org/tour-to-life. All donors will receive a t-shirt while supplies last. All successful blood donations will be tested for antibodies to SARS-CoV-2, which is a coronavirus that creates and causes COVID-19. For more information, please visit vitalant.org/antibody-test. If you have recovered from COVID-19, have been at least 28 days symptom-free, and are interested in donating convalescent plasma, you can also visit vitalant.org/COVID-free. In order to effectively uphold social distancing standards, appointments are strongly encouraged. Face coverings are required for all donors and staff. Please come to your donation with a face covering that covers both your nose and mouth. Moving on to the Festival of Words fundraiser, Words for You Zoom fundraiser. This event is a culmination of a fundraiser in which the public commissions writers to create personalized poems, stories, and songs. The Festival of Words is really thrilled to have a diversity of authors from poet laureates to beginners from Lafayette to Church Point to New York City. So come listen to one of these kind of premium performances on an online cafe and grab a drink, snacks, and sit back for an evening of fun. The performers that are performing in the Words for You fundraiser is former poet laureates Jack Bedell and Darrell Bork, Dominic Cross, who's a very well-known journalist in the area, Charles Garrett, Tony Daspit, Cornelius Eady, Charles Claudel Garrett I, Valentine Pierce, Donnie Rose from the Baton Rouge area, very well-known poet in that area, Mona Lisa Saloy, Sandra Sarr, Tim Siegel, Tyler Robert Sheldon, Margaret Simone, and John Warner Smith, who is our current Louisiana State Poet Laureate. And there are many other celebrated authors, 45 in all. So go to the Facebook event page for Words for You. The link to the Zoom Cafe will be available the week of the event. Or you can contact Martha Gardner at fowmartha@gmail.com or call 337-804-2482. Make sure that number is correct. 82, correct window. Funds raised by the Words for You contribute to the 13th Annual Festival Awards. The Festival Awards brings established authors from all over the world to Acadiana to give public readings, writing workshops in community centers and public schools, and to drive-by poetry workshops during the first week of November. These funds will help to ensure the continuing expansion and success of these programs. This year's festival will be virtual and will feature graphic memorist Robin Ha, award-winning poet Erica Mittner, and Louisiana Poet Laureate John Warner Smith. Okay, let's go back into our news for Friday, August 21st. A man booked in St. Landry Jail on murder, transfer a suspect in woman's killing delayed by pandemic by Katie Gagliano, staff writer. Philip D. Woody, accused of kidnapping and killing a 72-year-old Ville Platte woman, was booked into the St. Landry Parish Jail on Thursday on a murder count in that case and a separate rape count related to an Opelousas woman, kidnapping and assault. D. Woody, 53, is accused of kidnapping and killing Joyce Thomas. She was last seen at her apartment complex on Chantineer Street in Ville Platte on February 26th and was reported missing by her family. Thomas was described by her family as a kind, bright, and funny woman who held herself for high standards and desired the best from the others in return. She always sought to connect with others despite being unable to speak or hear, they said. Thomas's body was found on property off Interstate 49 between Sunset and Opelousas on March 2nd. D. Woody was officially booked on account of first-degree murder and Thomas's death Thursday. He is transferred to St. Landry from Elaine Hunt Correctional Center in St. Gabriel. Trooper Thomas Gosson, spokesperson for Louisiana State Police Troop 1, said D. Woody's transfer to St. Landry was delayed because of COVID-19 restrictions, barring the transfer of suspects or inmates between facilities to prevent spread of the coronavirus. Gosson was unable to say why D. Woody was at Hunt Correctional. D. Woody released to be booked at St. Landry because it's the location where the crime occurred. Gosson said D. Woody was also booked on account of first-degree rape and a separate kidnapping and assault case. D. Woody is accused of kidnapping an Opelousas woman believed to be in her late 50s while she was walking home from her nearby store around South Market and West Foulard Streets on February 22nd. The woman told Opelousas police detectives she was forced into a vehicle and driven out of the city where she was sexually assaulted. After the attack, DeWoody drove the woman home. Investigators eventually developed DeWoody as a suspect, but he was already in state police custody as a suspect in Thomas's disappearance. The surviving victim soon after identified DeWoody as her attacker in the photo lineup. The woman led authorities to the property where she was assaulted, and days later they discovered Thomas's body at the same location. DeWoody was previously arrested by the Opelousas Police Department on account of second-degree kidnapping in the second case, but the sexual assault investigation was handled by the St. Larry Parish Sheriff's Office because the I-49 property is outside the police department's jurisdiction, officials said. DeWoody has a violent criminal history, including armed robbery convictions and a conviction for a 1993 prison escape that included a second-degree kidnapping charge for holding a Lincoln Parish prison guard at night point. D. Woody's 117-year sentence included stipulations that most of the time he served without benefit of parole or probation, that he become eligible for parole under a 1990 geriatric parole law, Act 790, which stipulates that offenders sentenced to 30 years or more without benefit of parole will become eligible for parole after serving at least 20 years in prison and reaching the age of 45, said Louisiana Department of Public Safety and Corrections spokesman Ken Pasterik. DeWoody became eligible for parole in 2013 and was denied parole twice on May 7, 2014 and March 7, 2016, before being approved in 2019. He was released from the Dixon Correctional Center in East Feliciana Parish on June 28, 2019, Pasterik said. A separate law dictates that offenders with armed robbery convictions are not eligible for Act 790 parole benefits, but the provision was signed into law in 1997 and applies only to offenders who committed armed robberies in 1997 or afterward, he said. Okay, let's see. Continuing with Louisiana news, and then we'll take our half-hour break in a few minutes. Lafayette Parish, 2 new early voting sites okayed by Claire Taylor, staff writer. Lafayette Parish voters will have 2 new options for casting early votes for the November 3rd election. Lafayette City and Parish Councils have approved 2 new early voting sites, one at the Martin Luther King Center on Cora Street, North Lafayette, and the other at the East Regional Branch of the Lafayette Public Library at La Nouvelle Road in Youngsville to serve South Lafayette. Voters also may continue to cast early ballots at the Registrar of Voters office at 1010 Lafayette Street, Suite 313 in downtown Lafayette. For decades, the Registrar of Voters office in Lafayette has been the only early voting site in the parish. Few parking spots are available during weekday hours near the building, making it difficult for the elderly and physically challenged voters to park nearby. The League of Women Voters have pushed in recent years for a better option. On Tuesday, the city and parish councils agreed to establish a new early voting site at the Martin Luther King Center to be funded by the Lafayette Consolidated Government, LCG, by transferring money from the Clinton Chenier Cultural Plaza project to the parish general fund. An agreement setting forth the terms of the temporary site expires December 31st, 2023. The cost is expected to be between $41,000 and $45,000 to set up the site. The ordinances will be submitted to the Louisiana Secretary of State's office, which is the chief elections officer in the state, and Lafayette Parish Registrar Charlene Mo Menard. Establishing the MLK early voting site follows a vote of the councils in July to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the cities of Youngsville and Broussard. Those cities will reimburse Lafayette or LCG for the cost of the temporary early voting site at the East Regional Library. It is expected to cost about $45,000 to set up and about $10,000 to $12,000 a year thereafter. LCG also must sign a memorandum of understanding with the Louisiana Secretary of State's office, Registrar of Voters office, and the library, according to the ordinance. The agreement in which Youngsville and Broussard split the cost of the early voting site ends December 31st, 2020. After that, the parish would have to pay the cost. Okay, a couple more PSAs before we go into our day in history. And the horoscope or zodiac, and our funeral is in the area for the day. Okay, looking at the Acadian Symphony Orchestra, or ASO, announces that they are shifting the fall portion of the ASO 36 revival season to a virtual live stream platform. ASO believes that this is the unquestionable solution to keeping our community safe while still providing opportunities for local musicians to share their passion and earn income despite mandated Acadiana and fueling the cultural economy of our region. Symphony businesses and organizations across the country are having to rethink, retool, and reinvent. We are no different. So thank you for your grace and your patience as we map out the next few months. We are working tirelessly behind the scenes to solidify plans for those virtual concerts, and it is our commitment to you that we will clearly and concisely communicate ASO 36 revival season details in the coming weeks. At a minimum, we are certain that you will receive the highest quality live streaming performance, which you can enjoy from virtually anywhere. As of right now, the lineup is a program entitled Unite, Friday, September 11th, 2020, a virtual performance. Triumph, Friday, October 23rd, 2020, virtual. Transform, Friday, November 13th, 2020, virtual. Believe, Thursday, December 17th, 2020, virtual. Adore, Friday, February 12th, 2021, at the Acadian Center for the Arts, or the ACA, virtual. Empower, Friday, April 16th, 2021, St. John's Cathedral, the virtual, and Revive, Thursday, May 13th, 2021, St. Mary's Church, virtual. Another public service announcement news, AOC teams up with United Way of Acadiana for Learn United. United Way of Acadiana has teamed up with AOC and other local educational groups for Learn United, bridging the digital gap to provide educational resources for households that don't have internet but do have a television. The Learn United program airs weekdays from 8 to 2 on AOC 2, Cox 16, and LUS 4, and streaming at aocinc.org/watch. For daily schedules and to submit content for the program, visit the United Way of Acadiana's website, unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. Okay. All right, and now we're going to read the day in history. Today is Friday, August 21st, the 234th day of 2020. There are potentially 132 shopping days left in the year. Today's highlight in history: on August 21st, 1831, Nat Turner launched a violent slave rebellion in Virginia, resulting in the deaths of at least 55 white people. He was later executed. On this date, in 1609, Galileo demonstrated his new telescope to a group of officials atop the Campanile in Venice. In 1911, Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa was stolen from the Louvre Museum in Paris. The painting was recovered 2 years later in Italy. In 1961, country singer Patsy Cline recorded the Willie Nelson song Crazy in Nashville for Decca Records. And we know how that became a huge hit. In 1983, Philippine opposition leader Benigno S. Aquino Jr., ending a self-imposed exile in the United States, was shot to dead moments after stepping off a plane at Manila International Airport. In 1987, Sergeant Clinton Leontree, the first Marine court-martial for spying, was convicted in Quantico, Virginia, of passing secrets to the KGB. Leontree ended up serving 8 years in a military prison. In 1991, the hardline coup against Soviet President Mikhail S. Gorbachev collapsed in the face of a popular uprising led by Russian Federation President Boris N. Yeltsin. 1992, an 11-day siege began at the cabin of white separatist Randy Weaver in Ruby Ridge, Idaho, as government agents tried to arrest Weaver for failing to appear in court on charges of selling 2 illegal sawed-off shotguns. In 2014, Governor Jay Nixon ordered the Missouri National Guard to begin withdrawing from Ferguson, where nightly scenes of unrest had erupted since a white police officer fatally shot a black 18-year-old nearly 2 weeks earlier. 10 years ago today, Iranian and Russian engineers began loading fuel into Iran's first nuclear power plant, which Moscow promised to safeguard to prevent material at the site from being used in any potential weapons production. Also on this day 10 years ago, a Vincent van Gogh painting, or Van Gogh, however you want to pronounce his last name, poppy flowers, was stolen in broad daylight from Castro's Muhammad Ali Museum. Although Egyptian authorities initially said they recovered the painting the same day at the Cairo airport, that report turned out to be erroneous. The painting remains missing. 5 years ago, a trio of American U.S. Air Force Staff Sergeant Spencer Stone, National Guardsman Alec Scarlatos, and college student Anthony Sadler, and a British businessman, Chris Norman, tackled and disarmed a Moroccan gunmen on a high-speed train between Amsterdam and Paris. First Lieutenant Shay Haver of Corpus Cove, Texas, and Captain Kristen Griest of Orange, Connecticut, became the first female soldiers to complete the Army's rigorous Ranger School at Fort Benning, Georgia. 1 year ago, escalating international spat, President Donald Trump said he had scrapped his trip to Denmark because the country's prime minister had made a nasty statement when she rejected her idea of buying Greenland as absurd. Trump signed an order erasing the hundreds of millions of dollars in federal student loan debt owned by disabled military veterans. Looking at the birthdays today, actor director Melvin Van Peebles is 88. Actor Clarence Williams III is 81. Rock and roll musician James Burton, 81. Singer Jackie DeShannon is 79. Actor Patty McCormick is 75. Actor Loretta Devine is 71. NBC Newsman Harry Smith is 69. Singer Glenn Hughes is 68. Actor Kim Cantrell is 64. Actor Cleo King is 58. Actor Carrie Ann Moss is 50. Actor Alicia Witt is 45. Singer Keyless is 41. TV personality Brody Jenner is 37. Olympic gold medal sprinter Usain Bolt is 34. Actor Hayden Panettiere is 31. And actor Maxine Knight is 21. Okay, we turn to our horoscope, or the zodiac, or the horoscope. That's what I like to call it. Let's see what we have here today in our zodiac. Oh, there was a day in history. It was there all the time, folks. I just didn't see it listed. Oh my gosh. Okay, change to the zodiac. If you're a Pisces, if you have ulterior motives for helping someone, you will be disappointed with the results. Put a greater emphasis on using your imagination and delving into creative projects. Aries, be careful how you handle sensitive issues. Someone close to you will be easily hurt if you are too vocal about your feelings. Treat personal matters with kindness and consideration. Taurus, an emotional incident will lead to a change of heart. A personal change will be the pick-me-up you need to improve your attitude. Romance is in the stars. Gemini, keep busy in order to avoid trouble. If you stretch the truth, someone you know who knows the facts will be eager to question you. Avoid temptation and untrustworthy people. Be kind to yourself. Cancer, don't act in haste. Look for solutions and do whatever is necessary to make things better. Anger is not the answer if you want to resolve a problem. Leo, don't dismiss a change before you check it out. A steady pace, and open mind will help you gain confidence as well as support. Be open-minded when confronted with dissent or new ideas. Virgo, a chance of pace will be revitalizing. Make plans with someone who puts a smile on your face. A kind gesture will make a difference to someone going through a hard time. Libra, refuse to let anyone prevent you from concentrating on what's important. An opportunity to make changes at home that will boost your productivity should be put in motion. Scorpio, how you help others will affect what you get in return. Being cooperative will give you leverage when you want to bring about change. Don't labor over the impossible. Sagittarius, learn something new, an open mind, and a desire to make a difference will help you let go of the past. Don't let an emotional matter stop you from making progress. Capricorn, keep your emotions under control. Look for personal opportunities that will help you update your attitude, image, or lifestyle. Romance is encouraged. And Aquarius, I see what happened here. Pay attention to how much you spend and or eat or take out physically. Moderation will be essential. Aim to look and feel your best, and you'll find it easier to resist temptation. Okay, the funerals in the Kittiana area today. Evelyn Fitch, the St. John Evangelist Catholic Church, located on St. Nicholas Street in Jeanerette at 1 p.m. George Martin, Evangeline Memorial Gardens Chapel in Carriacou, 3 p.m. Call Mistrick, Our Lady of Sorrows Roman Catholic Church at noon. Dalton and Romero, St. Anne Catholic Church, 11 a.m. And Julia Seal at Giese Ferguson Funeral Home in Crowley at 2 p.m. All right, moving on with our stories. Airport New View, Lafayette Terminal to feature innovative windows, still on track to open next year, by Adam Daigle. The rotunda area on the second floor of the new terminal building under construction at the Lafayette Regional Airport will offer a scenic view of the air traffic at the airport when it's scheduled to open next year. But you'll notice the windows are different. It's sage glass, an electronically tintable glass that tints or clears on demand depending on the conditions. It dims to control the heat and glare for customers inside. It will give customers dining at the nearby restaurant a more comfortable experience, but also will simply allow users to do things like read a menu. It might be the only application of sage glass at a Louisiana airport, Director Steve Picue said. We got the idea from the Dallas-Fort Worth airport, he said. If you're walking through there, most of the time you're looking at a concessionaire where they don't have the sage glass. You strain because the glare is so bad. Once they did that, their sales at those places that have sage glass spiked because people could read the menu. That area may be the most attractive spot in the terminal, which remains on schedule to open in September 2021. Picue led a media tour of the building Thursday. Work remains on schedule for the $90 million project that will replace the smaller current terminal. The new terminal will be 12,000 square foot, doubling the current 6,000 square feet, and will have room for expansion. With its wider walkways and security checkpoint area that will quadruple the size at the current terminal, visitors will notice the difference immediately. And that security checkpoint, there will be 2 lines with room for a third one. The biggest thing you'll notice is the space, PQ said. It's an open concept. There's higher ceilings. The building has the ability for expansion, whereas the current terminal is very limited on expansion. That's why the Airport Commission elected to build a new terminal. Other points of interest and note, the 9,000 square foot restaurant space will be just off the rotunda. Oak Wells, which operates the Acadiana Tap Room restaurant in the current terminal, will move into that space. It's beyond the security checkpoint, but customers won't need to be a passenger to dine there, PQ said. Customers will still have to pass through security. Spaces offering drinks and sundry items will be on both sides of the security checkpoint. The wall along the walkway for arriving passengers next to the security checkpoint will have a mural of the Atchafalaya Basin. The terminal will have 5 gates, 1 more than the current terminal. Delta will be at the first one, United Airlines will have the next 2, and American will be at the 4th. The 5th will remain vacant until the current terminal is demolished. The second floor will house Picue's office and other airport staff. Currently, their offices are off-site. Picue noted that passenger traffic is gradually returning to the airport after the COVID-19 shutdown, but still has a ways to go. Last year was a banner year for the airport with over 260,000 enplanements and deplanements. In January and February, traffic counts were high. Then traffic all but halted with coronavirus, but with under 2,000 enplanements and deplanements in April. In July, those totals topped 8,000. On Thursday, American Airlines it announced it will pull out of 15 regional markets, including Lake Charles. We're about 40% of where we were last year, PQ said. That's a lot better than, say, March or April when we had very little flight activity. All the airlines have increased their flights, and we're looking for them to increase once COVID gets kind of under control. We're optimistic things are going to be turning around. All right, let's see what we have here. And we've done that. All right, turning to state news, colleges to report virus data. Campuses will publish test results each week by Mark Ballard and Sam Carlin. The state's college and university campuses has decided to start publicly reporting COVID-19 cases by campus each week, affecting work with Governor John Bel Edwards' administration on how to best disclose infection numbers to try to trace outbreaks. Initially, leaders of the LSU and University of Louisiana systems have refused to tell how many students and faculty were testing positive, arguing that such information could be misleading. LSU reversed itself on Wednesday and started a running total of students testing positive on its reopening website. Leaders from the college systems, Louisiana Department of Health, and the Board of Regents, which sets policy for all public higher education institutions, met Wednesday night and decided to release the test results data by campus each week. Meg Sundstrom, Deputy Commissioner for Strategic Communication at the Regents, said Thursday. Dr. Alex Billio, the top coronavirus official in the Edwards administration, was part of the meeting with top school officials on Wednesday, and he said the agency's foremost interest is finding out where on campuses outbreaks happen in hopes of eliminating outbreaks. Our biggest interest is with any setting, understanding where our cases and if there's a pattern of risk that we're seeing cases are linked, that we're intervening as early as possible to protect more people from being exposed to cases, Billio said. But he acknowledged it will be a challenge to deal with outbreaks the same way the state responds to outbreaks at a business because of the sprawling nature of college campuses where students flow between dozens of buildings and many go off campus each day. Billio noted some colleges, such as LSU, are doing their own contact tracing efforts, and the state wants to help department and universities share information with each other. Governor Edwards said at his Thursday coronavirus briefing that his instruction to higher education leaders and the health department was to be as transparent and timely as possible when reporting information. He said he believes the institutions should be reporting data on infections. LSU is not mandating students be tested upon returning to campus for the fall semester like some universities, including Tulane, have done. But on Wednesday, the school announced it will be making free testing available for any student who wants one. The testing will be done at the Pete Maravich Assembly Center and in front of the student union. Although Edwards has not offered any clues as to what that may look like, he said he will make a decision in the next 10 to 12 days in regards to testing and what the college campuses will look like. Okay. Louisiana election chief warns of logistic issues this fall by Melinda Dislate, Associated Press. Dislate. With Louisiana's Republican lawmakers and Democratic governor unable to reach an agreement on an emergency elections plan, the site's election chief warned Thursday that they may have difficulties administrating the fall elections during the coronavirus pandemic. A federal judge is likely to determine how much logistical freedom Republican Secretary of State Kyle Ardoin gets to manage the November 3rd presidential and congressional election and the December 5th state runoff election. That has Erdogan worried that he won't have some of the flexibility he wants to run the elections to adjust polling locations, recruit more poll commissioners, expand early voting, and tweak absentee balloting deadlines. Without it, Erdogan said he doesn't believe Louisiana will have complete results on election night and could see people packed into unsafe voting locations. Erdogan proposed an emergency plan, but a dispute over how much to widen Louisiana absentee balloting rules has caused a stalemate between GOP lawmakers and Governor John Bel Edwards. Republicans want a very limited expansion only for people who test positive for the virus, while Edwards and Democrats want a wider list of virus-related excuses to vote absentee by mail. The consequences of not having a plan are far greater and far worse than this plan, Erdogan told senators. If we don't have a plan, we will have issues, logistical, serious problems. A House committee backed Erdogan's proposal Wednesday, and the Senate and Governmental Affairs Committee voted 5-3 for the plan Thursday. The full legislature will vote on the proposal, but Edwards has already said that he'll reject it if it reaches his desk. The House, Senate, and Governor all must approve an emergency elections plan for it to take effect. The impasse likely will have a federal judge to determine how Louisiana runs its fall elections because of a pending lawsuit filed by voting rights advocates that seeks to widen mail-in voting options. Okay. Louisiana Senator Cassidy tested positive for coronavirus by Sam Carlin, staff writer. U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy has tested positive for the coronavirus and is quarantining for 14 days, his office announced on Thursday. Cassidy, a 62-year-old Republican, got tested Thursday after he was notified Wednesday night he had been exposed to an individual with the coronavirus, his staff said. After the test came back positive, Cassidy contacted his physician and is quarantined for 14 days, as well as notifying those who he may have come in contact with. Spokesman said Cassidy had mild symptoms that began Thursday morning. He is at home in Baton Rouge. I am strictly following the direction of our medical experts and strongly encourage all others to do the same, Cassidy said in the statement. Cassidy, a medical doctor who unseated then U.S. Senator Mary Landrieu in 2014, is up for re-election this year in a seat that election observers say is safe. With Congress on recess, Cassidy was in Shreveport on Wednesday, where he visited the Overton Brooks VA Medical Center and met with Shreveport State Representative Thomas Presley, also a Republican, according to Twitter posts from the senator and representative. Presley did not return messages seeking comment. A former state senator and congressman representing Baton Rouge, Cassidy, has largely worn a mask when in public since health officials began recommending people wear face coverings to help prevent the spread of the virus. For years before public life, he was a full-time doctor, specializing in his liver at LSU Earl K. Long Medical Center, a charity hospital in Baton Rouge. Cassidy is the latest elected official in Louisiana to test positive for the virus. That list includes Republican Attorney General Jeff Landry, State Representative Ted James, Democrat from Baton Rouge, and Senate President Paige Cortez, Republican from Lafayette, State Representative Tony Bacula from Prairieville, and State Representative Reggie Bacula, a Lockport Republican who died from the virus. A host of members of Congress have quarantined because of exposure from the virus or tested positive, including Cassidy's colleague, U.S. Senator Rand Paul, Republican from Kentucky. Cassidy is the second U.S. Senator to test positive. Cassidy recently appeared with Governor John Bel Edwards, Vice President Mike Pence, and other officials at LSU, where Pence insisted K-12 schools need to reopen for in-person learning this fall. The event came as the state was in the midst of a surge in cases and hospitalizations. Cassidy's most well-known challenger for re-election this year is Adrian Perkins, the mayor of Shreveport. But Cassidy holds a strong funding advantage and backing from President Donald Trump, who still holds considerable sway in the deep red state. Okay, it's almost closing in on 9:55, where our audio broadcast on our TV stations will end. but you can continue hearing my voice, read the news, and I have a couple more stories to relate to you this morning. So you can catch me on AOC Community Media at our YouTube channel, AOC Community Media on YouTube, or our live streaming channel. That's Cypress Street Radio, CYPRESS Radio, Street Radio, Cypress Street Radio. That's our online streaming website. Just go to there online, just look up Cypress Street Radio. You'll see the page there and the play button. Play, and you'll be able to hear my wonderfully melodious voice. Okay, so it's 9:55, so now we're going to turn over to AOC Community Media at YouTube and to Cypress Street Radio. We have a couple other stories. 4 men indicted in the killing of the UL student by Ramon Antonio Vargas, staff writer. And this is out of Orleans Parish. An Orleans Parish grand jury filed murder charges Thursday against 4 men in connection with the shooting death of a University of Louisiana Lafayette architecture student earlier this year. Alex Billiot, his brother Iraq Billiot, Caden Fruget, and Tyron Barraza each face counts of second-degree murder in the January 10th slaying of Lee Long Jr. 20 near an area of college bars in uptown New Orleans, District Attorney's Office spokesperson Ken Daly said in a statement. Alex Billiot, 22, was only one of the 4 linked to Long's killing, who was in jail when the 31-count indictment against him was handed up, Daly said. Police arrested him January 28th, and he since remained locked up in lieu of $450,000 in bail. Eric Billiot, Fruget, and Barraza all were at large as of late Thursday afternoon. According to Daly's statement, police believe Long and Alec Billiot knew each other and may have completed a disputed transaction minutes before the shooting, early morning shooting at the corner of Hillary and Burr Streets. The statement didn't elaborate on the nature of the transaction, but suggests the Billiots, Fruget, and Barraza were planning to rob Long. Police say Long was in the driver's seat of his parked truck, accompanied by 5 women with whom he was friends, when one man approached and fired several bullets into the vehicle. Long was the only person hit by the gunfire, and he died at the scene from multiple bullet wounds, the district attorney's office statement added. Investigators had previously said they arrested Alec Billiot at Belle Chase, either at least one unidentified witness named as Long's killer. At the time of his arrest, Billiot was serving 5 years probation after pleading guilty in Jefferson Parish to illegal possession of a pharmaceutical drug, as well as possession with the intent to distribute marijuana. In the Long case, besides murder, Billiot and his 3 co-defendants each face 5 charges of attempted second-degree murder, as well as 1 charge of conspiring to rob the victim at gunpoint. Alex Billiot additionally faces 1 charge each of obstruction of justice and a homicide and illegally possessing a gun as a convicted felon. Barraza also faces a charge of illegally possessing a gun as a felon. The 4 defendants would face mandatory life imprisonment if convicted of murder. Long has graduated from Archbishop Shaw High School, Marrero, and was in his 3rd year at UL when he was killed. His survivors include his parents and a pair of siblings. And finally, in sports, LSU coach disputes a quote, and Geis report, Orgeron says USA Today, quote, attributed to him not accurate by Brooks Kobana, staff writer. LSU coach Ed Orgeron on Thursday disputed a quote attributed to him by a former player in a USA Today story detailing 1 of 2 cases in which former students claimed they were raped by running back Darius Bush in 2016. Orgeron issued a statement Thursday night on Twitter saying the sexual assault allegations against Geis, should be taken seriously and that the former students must be heard and suspended. I will always stand up for what is right, Orgeron said in the statement. Without question, I have complied, and I will continue to comply with all university Title X protocols and procedures. The women were described by USA Today As a former LSU player, tennis player, and a student who didn't play sports, their allegations were reportedly shared with at least 2 LSU coaches, an athletics administrator, and a nurse, but the women said neither claim led to an investigation. And that's it for our news this morning, covering news and sports and expansion of the new Lafayette Regional Airport and all the news that fits into an hour. Did it in an hour this morning. So congratulations to me. I'm just being a little funny there. Well, that's it, folks. Thank you for listening in. We provide this service free to all of our visually impaired members living out there in our community, as well as our community members who don't have access to a newspaper or the news cycle. We really appreciate you tuning in and listening to us every Monday through Friday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. We appreciate, as always, you listening in. And all I can say at this point is I'm Bruce Cohen. I've always been Bruce Cohen. Stay safe, healthy, and smart. As I've been quoting the last couple of weeks or for a month now, please be smart, folks, when you're out in public. Wear your mask, wash your hands, sanitize, do everything necessary to stop the spread. And we will all work together on this and get rid of it so we can get back to whatever the new normal is. But let's please all take part in this. Remember that it's important that we keep everybody healthy and safe. And as always, be kind to each other and have a great weekend. And we'll see you at 9 a.m. Monday morning. Take care.